In process. All right. So welcome, welcome. So we have a great crew here. We have nurses, we have nurse practitioners, we have a few people that have started already, just got started, I see. And then I have a few on here who are looking to get started. One thing I will say, unless you attended my very, very last course or IV therapy boot camp, this will be, they had this information. This was a part of that boot camp. But otherwise, whether you have attended a prior to May, the May boot camp or prior course, this will still be very valuable information to you. So, hey, awesome. It's awesome. Awesome. Looking to starting next week. Well, congratulations. Just started. Yay, Summer. I know you were at a previous, so this will still be valuable to you. And congratulations on getting started. It definitely excites me when I see prior boot campers launching. And look, I know some people think they came to boot camp or they took the course and they feel that pressure to launch immediately. Let's be real. This is a possibly 60 to 90-day process, and sometimes a little longer. We do need to have very specific things in place. And even though we know that IV therapy or even any other concierge nursing business is a business as such that you can start for a relatively lower startup cost and lower barriers to entry, because most of what we need is us as far as our nursing skills, our expertise, our nursing license. But ultimately, traditionally, it has been said, it had been IV therapy is the way to go. It's easy. You just get started. You order a few supplies, you pick a few drips. And unfortunately, what happened is it turned out that that wasn't the entire picture. Now, is this still totally possible and feasible? No matter what state you are in, absolutely, it is. But I do want you to know, or just have some considerations, whether, again, you have started, whether you've attended a previous boot camp, or whether you are looking to get started. And then from there, I have a special offer, because my goal is that you have exactly what you need, everything that you need to get started. And my goal is to help so many more nurses. I've helped over 100. A little over 100. My goal is hundreds. And with that goal and mission in mind for this year, this is why I do what I do. This is why I do the webinars. This is why I'm open to transparency and sharing information. This is why I put these events together, because even if I don't directly, like, you don't have to take my course for me to help you. I definitely enjoy helping via my course, but guess what? I can still help hundreds of nurses, which is my goal, just by doing these type of informational sessions. So that is the reason for the Concierge Nurse Network. That is my goal, to help and support nurses in entrepreneurship, because I had no clue of this being a possibility for me. And now that I have that clue, and now that I know it is, I want all nurses to know. That does not mean that this is the time or it is the place for every nurse to start a business, but you need to know what is possible when the things do align and when it is your time. And it is totally possible to do this alongside a full-time job, a part-time job, to start this. So yes, it is still totally feasible. It is still absolutely possible, but there are some things that you need to be aware of. So with that said, the 10 hard truths of launching an IV therapy business was born out of me seeing nurses go through courses, including mine, and then realizing that there's a lot more to it. It's not because I didn't tell those who came through my course, okay? Like, side note, we all know that I'm going to over deliver on the information, but ultimately, still, realistically, you sometimes do not realize things until you're in it. You're in the mission, you're on that road, and you're on that route, and that's when you realize there are going to be some obstacles. So I was seeing that. I listen to what I hear from nurses and what you tell me. So with that said, this was born. So who am I? I am Dr. Ronika Stewart. I am a family nurse practitioner in Tampa, Florida. I am the founder of the Concierge Nurse Network. You can find the Concierge Nurse Network on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and also YouTube. So I'm the founder, I'm the owner of Adaptive Wellness and Recovery. I am the creator of IV Therapy Bootcamp and Post-Op Recovery Bootcamp. So those are my signature courses. with post-op recovery bootcamp being the initial course with IV therapy included. IV therapy bootcamp is also offered separately. And a few of you may also be familiar with the fact that myself and another nurse have partnered, and we teach the Start Your Postpartum Concierge course as well. With that said, my goal is, again, to guide nurses into starting a niche concierge nursing business, because ultimately it gives what we need is already in us. One, two, we can have so much impact, and we do not have to necessarily do IV therapy, but that's what we'll talk about tonight. But we can have so much impact beyond four walls, and also in turn, so much freedom, flexibility, and just fulfillment. That's what we want. That's why we became nurses. And unfortunately, when we're working within, institutions for employers, we unfortunately just hit a brick wall, and there's only so far we can go. Even if we have a great career, even if we were feeling fulfilled, there just reaches a point where else can I go? And if you're like me, and I know so many of you are, we want to keep going. We want to keep learning. We want to keep evolving. And one place you can do that and get that fulfillment is definitely with owning your own business. Not to mention, there's no cap on your earning potential, okay? The economy, we know, is not impressive right now. But what I do know is people still have money to spend. There are still people out there who are seeking to be proactive in their health and wellness. I did a full day in the clinic today with those people. So they're out there. So this is still something and that we should be doing, starting our businesses. Not to mention, it takes time to build. So just starting now, the longer you delay the start, the longer you delay your freedom, your flexibility, and your fulfillment. So with that said, thank you again for joining. Be sure to connect with me on Facebook. It's my full name, so you always know who and what you're getting. I am fully transparent and love being transparent. And again, on IG, and then the Facebook group is the Concierge Nurse Network. So with all of that said, as you can tell, we're going right into it. We're not going to delay. So the 10 hard truths, because they're hard, because honestly, so many people sold dreams, and so many people, like coaches, mentors, they had good intentions. I'm not going to say they didn't, but they didn't tell the whole story, right? So many people just said, here, take this course, launch. Let's not even say coaches and mentors. There are companies out there, y'all. There are companies out there selling dreams, and that this is so simple and so easy. And from the standpoint that there's not certain things that you need to consider as far as regulations, as far as, getting your business set up. So the reason that it's called hard truth is because nurses get out there and they realize that there is more to this. And I want you to be aware of that, but also how to navigate it. So I'm not going to just give you the problem. All within this one webinar, I'm still going to give you solutions, and then also the option of working with me for even more solutions and guidance. So truth number one, y'all type number one. Y'all don't have to do this every time, but just because this is the first one, okay? Number one, entrepreneurship is a long game. Who knew that? Type a 2 if you knew that entrepreneurship was a long game. Entrepreneurship, is not something that you're going to jump into. There's not somewhere where you're going to realize overnight success. It's definitely not get rich quick. Can you get rich, and can you build a business? Can you build an asset? Can you build a legacy? Can you sell that business and possibly get rich? Definitely. And that's the goal. The goal is to know that entrepreneurship is a long game, and where you're building a business, the proper foundation is so important and so instrumental because ultimately you're not going to want to work the business forever. You're not really looking to, the goal is not to just create a job for yourself. That's not true entrepreneurship. Creating a job for yourself is great at first, but the goal of entrepreneurship is impact, again, freedom, fulfillment, and you're going to create jobs for other people. And eventually you want to have an end game. You want to have an exit plan. So with all that I just said, entrepreneurship is truly a long game. It's not short and sweet or quick. So when you sign up for this lifestyle and all that comes with it, I'm here to tell you now at year 3, it is a very long game. It is something that you have to embrace. You have to understand that you will not always feel so excited. You know, when you start this business, it's like anything. You're so excited. It feels like a fresh start, but there are days where you're not as motivated and you're not as excited about this endeavor. There are days where your discipline and your passion for what you do and your why has to lead the way. So again, entrepreneurship is a long game. So knowing all of that, get your business, marketing, building that business, getting in front of new clients daily is important. When you're starting your business, you go out and you seek relationships and networking. That is something that, again, is a long game and that you will need to continue to do. And you won't need to do it here or there or only if you feel like it. You have to be willing to do this when you absolutely are disgusted and wonder why you did this and you do not feel like it. So plant your seeds daily, get your business in front of new people daily, build relationships, network. And one of the most important words on this slide here, reciprocate. This is not meant to be that you're an island or you're just the only person involved. You want to build relationships that go 2 ways. So not just relationships that are beneficial to you, but also relationships where you also benefit other people. So again, entrepreneurship, creating jobs, providing opportunities for other nurses. If, for example, today I had the opportunity through my business to actually take on a nursing student. I've never been able to do that. She may be on this webinar tonight because I invited her, but I had the opportunity to reciprocate. I've been blessed and I've created and built some great relationships in a network, the Concierge Nurse Network, and I like to be able to give back and reciprocate. And that is so important to business and momentum and playing the long game. Overnight success is years in the making, okay? It is not, excuse me, it is not going to be overnight. So that's truth number 1. Let's see, are y'all with me? Yes, y'all are with me. Okay. Yep, she's here. Yay, you made it. As much as she was so grateful for me being able to, because of my business, because of me stepping out and starting my business and being an entrepreneur, I could decide that, hey, I can help another student out in the nursing community. As much as she was grateful for me being able to do that, I was grateful to be able to do that. So, yay, glad you made it to the webinar. So truth number 2, all of them are very important and very critical. But truth number 2, it is critical to understand regulations specific to the state in which you are operating. So we know that most of the time, this type of business, we thought, had a low barrier to entry, right? I'm saying we because it was sold to me that way too, okay? I was new at some point. And we know that we need a collaborative physician, or we need a medical director, or we need a supervising physician, whatever the case may be for your licensing and your state. But we now know, it has evolved that we need more than just a collaborative physician. We need more than just standing orders. We need more than just forming that LLC in our state. And now we're open for business. Depending on your state, you may need to consider corporate practice of medicine laws. Those are laws which determine a couple of things. 1, who can own an IV therapy business? In some states, only a medical professional can own a medical business, okay? But this also affects how, especially RNs, as an RN or LPN, this corporate practice of medicine laws will affect your ability to hire or possibly not directly hire your supervising physician / medical director, okay? So be aware of your state's corporate practice of medicine laws. Now, how the heck do you find this information? How can I be aware of this? You need your foundational team. You need to work with an attorney. You need to work with an attorney who understands IV therapy, and if anything, med spa and corporate practice of medicine and those laws and how they apply in your state. And that's not going to be every attorney. That's another hard truth that we'll keep within truth number 2. Every attorney is not going to be the attorney who understands these things and that's able to guide you on these things. So you will need to take the time to research and possibly interview a few and just be able to ascertain their understanding of these corporate practice of medicine laws, how they apply to nursing practice, how they apply to you owning and setting up an IV therapy business. Not to mention, entrepreneurship is a long game, right? As your business grows, as it evolves, as you scale, it will be crucial that you have that relationship with the attorney, because more money, more problems, y'all. More money, more problems, okay? So having that relationship and that attorney already on board as a foundational team member will be so important, okay? And then scope. We all know that we need to consider and we need to work within our scope of practice. So that was not such a surprise, but sometimes scope can mean so many different things in every state. You know, the nurse practitioner scope varies. LPN and RN scope traditionally don't vary much, but still they can vary a little bit across states. And we need to understand how that applies to mixing. You know, when you want to hire and expand your staff, you need to know scope of practice for the potential staff that you're going to hire. Say you want to hire a paramedic. A paramedic can start an IV, but can they mix medications into the bag? Can they monitor? Can they do an assessment? Same with LPNs. I'll often hear questions about phlebotomy. Can a phlebotomist start an IV, or can I hire a phlebotomist to my team? No, the phlebotomist scope of practice is not to place an IV catheter and hang an IV fluid or IV fluids. So you have to not only know your scope of practice inside and out, upside down, but you also have to understand your potential team scope of practice and what you can delegate to them. Okay, delegation is also important. So you need to understand scope. From there, you need to understand based on your scope, what do you need from your collaborative or supervising physician? It varies depending on LPN, RN, APRN, not to mention the laws have not kept up with nurse entrepreneurship. They are way behind. So every law relating to supervision and supervising physicians is related to how they supervise an APRN. So again, lots of RNs jumped in, took on the risk of starting a business, which is nothing wrong with that, but then ran into some friction as far as their requirements or what they needed from a supervising physician, or the process of hiring was different for them based on the state corporate practice of medicine laws. So your attorney as a foundational team member is going to be instrumental in this. Business formation varies as well. Of course, we have 50 states and some territories, and it's going to be 50 different possible processes, pricing, and also LLC structures, PLLC. Which one is best? Do I have to do a PLLC in my state? Do I need to do an LLC? I see these questions over and over again. And ultimately, your best resource for this is going to be, well, one, your state division or your state business formation websites. Florida has one called the Division of Corporations, and they'll walk you through what you need. But again, another great resource is still going to go back to an attorney who understands not just business, but also the setup process and the corporate practice of medicine laws as they relate to IV therapy and or med spa. Now, when you start an IV therapy business, it's a long game, right? How many times have I said that? So you're not always going to just do IV therapy. You're obviously going to plan to grow and scale and expand into other service lines, just like with concierge nursing, which is, of course, my specialty. But, you need to know, how that affects or how to add those services. You need to have protocols, consents. You need to be sure that, again, your coverage for your insurance, all of these things are the foundational structure as far as your business formation, okay? So understand how your insurance relates, how your insurance covers what you offer, how your business should be set up as LLC versus PLLC. Can I just take a little side note here? This is a little side note. With LLC versus PLLC. Wait, let me see if I see questions in the chat. What do you think about? Okay, so I'm supposed to, LLC versus PLLC. So is that legally required in Florida? You can operate in Florida, and I only know this because I'm in Florida, as an LLC. So the side note or the side road that I want to take on this is, y'all, when you're setting up your business, now this is typically more part of the class, when you're setting up your business as an LLC or a PLLC, you're setting that up that way to separate your business assets from your personal assets, okay? So I don't want to see y'all asking in the Concierge Nurse Network group. You can ask it in other groups, but don't ask it in this group because I'm answering it. I don't want to see y'all saying like, asking about what is required from my state, or should I use my home address when I set up my business? No. Okay, number one, what is required for your state? You need to talk to an attorney in your state. Using your home address defeats the whole point of setting up an LLC or a PLLC. You are separating. When you start your business, remember, your business is an asset. Your business is its own asset. If the ship tanks, you don't want your home or your personal assets tanking with the business ship, okay, or sinking with the business ship. So you need to separate that. And with that separation, I absolutely do not recommend that you use your home address on anything that involves your business, okay? So that's that. But I do see that question every now and then, so I wanted to take the side road and just answer that. As far as here in Florida, I have an LLC. I know that a PLLC is possible, but each state defines when that is required. In some states, if you have a professional license, a professional LLC is required. In other states, not necessarily. You have the option of how you want to do it. And honestly, I say if you're working with an attorney and you're getting different answers from different people, and even if your attorney, first of all, you really want to be confident in them. So even if they can't, give you all the direct answers, if you're working with an attorney and they're well-versed in what you're doing and they say it, I probably would just be more inclined, even if I heard a different opinion from another attorney. If this is who I'm working with and this is who I'm paying, this is who I trust, then I'm likely going to go with what they tell me, okay? So finding an attorney, I see a question about finding an attorney. It may take some time. It's a long game. So you really may need to interview a few and ask around. If this, this is the importance of the network. This is the importance of relationships. Ask around and see if anyone is in your state. There's got to be, someone else who possibly does IV therapy or owns a business in your state, but ask around and see who they're using and who may be recommended. And yes, do an interview, talk to them and be sure that they do understand corporate practice of medicine and also your scope as a nurse and what you do and your services. They have to, I just go straight to med spa. I use Instagram. I search Instagram, I search TikTok, I search topics. And sometimes I find attorneys with blogs on their website that talk about a topic. So that tells me when I find that blog on their website that they have an insight into that topic, into IV therapy, into the med spa industry. So I'm able to find quite a few that way here in Florida. All right, y'all. So truth number 3, because we do have 10 of these, but I just couldn't help but take that little side road. But truth number 3 is entrepreneurship can often feel like a lonely road, and you may often feel unsupported and even scared, okay? Scared. And that's the thing. The fear is failing, but also really having to walk this alone. So of course, with that said, I've seen so many nurses start off because of the loneliness, because of the fear, start off with a business partner. And that's also, side note, not something I necessarily recommend, okay? It can feel that way. And it's okay to keep going, number one. It is okay to face that fact that this is frustrating and then continue, face the fear and do it anyway. So what should you do to help this? So network, seek out the network. Hopefully you're in the Concierge Nurse Network. That is what it's there for. And I want it more active than what it actually is, but that is the reason that group exists. You know why? It's a little selfish, but I was an entrepreneur starting out around 2019 into 2020, and it was lonely as heck. No, people, your family, they love you, they care. But unless a lot of the times, like I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs, okay? I'm the first one in my household. And they love you and they want to see you do great, but they don't understand what you're truly dealing with, the uncertainty, the risk, the fear. They don't understand that, okay, a lot of the time, but they wish you well, but they do not understand. So the like-minded people and building a network, again, is very important. It's also really important to understand that when you go to start your business, or as you start, and some of you who have started can probably attest to this, and if you can, say, yes, I can, in the chat, but you'll realize that there's so many aspects of your mindset that maybe you thought were okay, and maybe you were functioning okay, but when you go to start your business, you quickly realize, I know I did, how sour and how negative and how mean my self-talk was to myself. I quickly realized so many blocks that I had that would almost paralyze me and keep me from moving forward. Of course, I had to spend that time on my mindset. I had to spend time continually ongoing on self-care and on mindset and on personal development. There was never a time that I really had to face so many of conditionings that I've had from childhood, limiting beliefs regarding my money mindset. When I became an entrepreneur, or started down this lonely road, I really had to face so many things. And and that was okay. It's okay to do that. It's okay to face them. It's okay that they may come up and you may realize like, wow, this is a place, where I thought I was okay, but it turns out I'm not. Because guess what? You need that is honestly, as scary as that sounds, it's also one of the most beautiful parts of the process, is how much that I've been able to just take the time and realize that I have to work on my mindset. I have to address my mindset in order to, one, be, of use and be a resource for my potential clients and the community that I want to serve, but also to other nurses. So spend the time on personal growth. If you love to read, I know I do, read. There's so much that can be found just in books, audibles, podcasts, attending events, meeting other nurses. And I promise y'all, I'm the queen of introverts. I am the introvert of all introverts. I promise you, I do not talk a lot in real life, okay? I'm very quiet when I'm not doing what I'm passionate about. So with that said, it's still so important to seek out the network and to connect with like-minded people. So do that, work on your mindset, work on yourself, and then ultimately enjoy the journey, enjoy the frustrations, enjoy the failures for that matter. Take those failures, because there will be, I've had situations that were very frustrating for me. I've had not the most ideal clients, and every single time and every difficult situation, there was a lesson and something to learn. There was a new policy to put in place, and I definitely did that. But guess what? You can do that when you're the boss, right? So that's the great thing, like effective immediately. Anybody see my Facebook post? I'm like, effective immediately. I do have some effective immediately days where, hey, I don't like the way that happened, and I need to make a policy and I need to be prepared. You're not going to start with every single thing perfect, aligned, and in place. There are going to be, now, foundation, legal, scope, yes, those need to be airtight. But there are some other aspects of your business where they're not going to be perfect. And again, it's a long game. So it's going to be important that you understand that you need to enjoy the journey, enjoy that building process, enjoy the growth, but enjoy the fact that you can make the changes and ultimately still build your business around your life and not the other way around. All right, let's get to number 4. So in the IV therapy world, I feel like this is getting better. Or maybe it's just that I've gotten really good at having all these multiple vendor accounts. But truth number 4, sometimes supplies and logistics can be challenging. The pandemic, we know, has eased up now, but at the time of me writing this was really just about 6 to 8 months ago. It was hard sometimes to even just get normal saline. And I feel like that's easing a little bit, but it is important to have vendor accounts. It is important to have multiple business vendor accounts. It is important to take the time. And even with that, build relationships with your reps, keep in touch with them, check in with them, wish them happy holidays, Mother's Day, whatever the case may be, because even when it comes to supplies and logistics, relationships are important. You will not get away from relationships, okay? Even the GPO that I suggest below, Group Purchasing Organization, that's a relationship. That's you joining a network of clinics versus just your clinic alone setting up accounts. You're joining a network where a lot of clinics have set up an account with multiple vendors, and that increases the buying power. So GPOs are a good thing to consider. Again, build relationships with multiple vendors and even the representatives, and then be flexible and creative with your offerings. And honestly, when it comes to your offerings and when you're starting out with IV therapy, the simpler, the better. One, for you, two, for your clients. They walk in and get a menu with like 100 drips and 50 add-ons. That's super overwhelming. The simpler, the better. You can always, again, grow, evolve, add on, change, grow, and scale. That's the goal, but you do not have to start big. And again, keeping it simpler does give you more flexibility. Keep it simple, okay? Number 5. So we have our business, we have relationships, we have a circle, we have other entrepreneurs. We know that business is a long game. We're rocking it, right? We're out here rocking it. We're getting clients. Our marketing is on point. We're getting new clients. We're planting those seeds daily. We're getting our business in front of our target client often, and they're coming through the door. But guess what? If you don't have your systems and your processes outlined, I didn't say perfect, but you do need to have them in place. If you don't have your system and your processes, they can make or break. And one thing I learned really quickly was answering the phone is important. Not answering the phone is so important. That is the phone system in itself. So even if I can't get directly to it, I have automatic text replies in place. If someone messages me on social media, I have replies there in place, or auto replies there, frequently asked questions that already have the answers loaded. Systems and processes are so important. I have systems in place that allow an assistant in place that allows me to, when I'm working or, doing my hands-on care, to still be able to check on and interact with potential clients is so important. The systems and processes really can make or break. And even if you start with the most basic system, as your business grows, it's going to be important that your system and your processes are able to grow as well. So with that said, I tell nurses, you need a way for clients to find you. That's your marketing, reach you, speak to you. That's your phone system. You need a way for them to schedule with you. That's your scheduling system. And you definitely do not want to make it difficult for them to pay you. So that's your payment processor. So your systems can be very basic, very simple. You don't have to think about get overwhelmed with this. Like, they can reach you, they can schedule with you, they can view your offerings, and they can pay you. Start there. But be sure that those systems make sense. Be sure that your website is easy to navigate. I can't tell you how many websites I go on and I'm like, where are they even located? So you do want to have your website is part of your business systems and a very important part. But again, keeping it simpler is always going to be better. It doesn't need to be some complicated 10-page website. They just need to know what you offer, who you are, how to schedule it, and how to pay. Okay. It doesn't, 4-page website is just fine. Okay. So again, systems and processes. So not having a proper system can make or break, but also having too complicated of systems, especially starting out, can make or break. So scheduling, use a system that is easy for clients. I've changed back and forth between a couple of systems just because one system that I was using, I kept getting phone calls. They were having trouble scheduling. And honestly, as much as I like that system, which is Vigero, some of you may use it, it was requiring, my clients had already gotten used to just scheduling because I use Acuity. Well, when I switched to Vigero, because I actually do like Vigero, it has some great systems in place as far as marketing, as far as interacting with your customers, sending out emails, all of the above. But my clients were super frustrated with it because they had to make an account and they really didn't like that. So that was a barrier for them. Nonetheless, if you start that way and your clients are used to it, that's different. Me, I tried to change it midway, right? So, but systems. So again, that was frustrating me because now my phone's ringing more. People are not able to schedule their appointment as easily as they had been able to. So it was very frustrating. So that system was causing frustration. So I had to change it back. So again, though, that's okay if that has to happen. Don't be afraid to cut your losses and make that change if you need to, because again, those systems and processes can make or break. Processes, as in, if someone walks into your business, say tomorrow, you can't be there, but you have drips scheduled and you need someone that can walk in and do those drips. How would they know what to do? How would they know, say you have a location, how would they know how to open that clinic? How would they know how to close that clinic? Or if you're mobile, how would they know, where to get the medications? So systems processes, meaning standard operating procedures and or protocols. So even though you do these things and you are going to be the person doing them at first, it is important to outline processes, important to outline operating or SOPs for every service. So from the time you arrive to their home, if you're mobile, to finishing that drip, what is that process? Do you walk in? Do you, review their medical history? Where does the good faith exam, for example, fit into this process? When do you check their vital signs? How do you document the drip sessions? That's a process. And that's something that you should have outlined so that right now it's you, but as you grow and expand, you can share that or have that in place for your team members, okay? So that's what I mean when I say processes. It is important to have those, even when it's just you at first, because as you grow, trying to get those in place could be a complete chaotic mess, okay? And so outline your SOPs, outline your processes and protocols. And y'all, it's so easy to do that these days. I don't know if some of y'all have heard me talk on Instagram, but I talk about using AI, artificial intelligence, a lot, okay? So even if it's a little terrifying, I have been able to outline within seconds processes and protocols with AI. So even though most classes that you take for IV therapy or business startup will give you some sample templates and protocols, now any service that you add, like someone came along and they were like, how can I make a protocol for doing a lab draw or doing a vitamin injection? And I just went right to my AI program. I used ChatGPT and I told it what I needed, and there's a protocol in seconds. So use technology, okay? There's no reason to now not be able to quickly outline your systems, processes, and protocols, because we have AI is exploding and it's only going to continue to grow and get smarter. And so you take advantage of that. I paid $20 a month for ChatGPT, and anything that if I realize I really don't have something outlined for that, I can do it in seconds and just tweak it to my clinic. Okay. So definitely use the resources out there. You should have a SOP protocol process outlined for every service that you offer. Okay. So truth number 5, let's get to 6. So I hinted to this earlier and I said you should definitely have a foundational team, your foundational team outside of you, because it's always going to start with you, right? But should include an attorney. I definitely know I drilled that point home, right? But also a tax professional. They can also assist with proper business setup, but one part of your business systems is definitely going to be your accounting or your bookkeeping systems. So you need to have those in place. And from day one, again, you're separating out your business assets from personal. And that starts with your bookkeeping system, your, proper business foundational setup, and also being sure that you have your business checking and savings. So you want to be sure that every expense that runs through your business is running separately outside of your personal finances. So bookkeeping will be important. It sounds super minor at first until you suddenly are clearing the 6 figures or multiple 6 figures a year. Then you will say, I definitely should have had my bookkeeping in place. So start that from day one. Okay. Day one. set up bookkeeping. It's simple to set up something like QuickBooks, FreshBooks. Even if you don't pay someone to keep books for you each month, you could work with the tax professional. They can get it set up for you, and then you could not balance it. I almost like you can log into it and categorize expenses. Super simple to do, anywhere from once a week to once a month, just depending on how often you want to do it. But it is important to keep track of your expenses and what you're doing within your business, what you're doing as far as, purchasing your supplies, what you're spending, your cost of doing business, your cost to exist every day. Okay. Those things will be important. So working with that tax professional from the day one, again, is just as important as the attorney, because they also can advise you. They would be helpful when it's time to add staff. They're going to be helpful there. They're going to be helpful when you have a staff of 10 and you need to, or 100, and it's time to do the tax paperwork relating to that. They should be a part of your foundational team. Don't add them later. Add them from day one, even if you're not so much utilizing them at first. Okay. And then we know the medical director, supervisory physician. What we need from them is going to vary according to state, according to how we're licensed, and the ability to hire them directly or having to go through the indirect process by utilizing what they call the MSO MSA. So let me be thorough and say an MSO and an MSA is an additional setup that you may need in certain corporate practice of medicine states. So many of you have heard the doctor has to own 51% and the nurse owns 49%. So that is true, but that does not mean that they own your business directly. What that means is that you have to have an additional structure set up, which is a managed service organization that will provide the oversight to your direct business. And the way that oversight is provided is determined in an agreement called an MSA, or a managed service agreement. Okay, so MSO MSA in relation to corporate practice of medicine is always going to require an attorney. And let me tell y'all, even if you use one of those companies, I won't say the names, even if you use those, y'all, that's great. If you use a company, I don't necessarily love it because a few nurses have already been burned, but not to bash that company. That's just something that they're going back, and I know that they're working on correcting. And look, that's business. Okay. So definitely not here to bash. But with that said, I'm just very much about being sure that you have your foundational team, you have your attorney, you have your tax professional, you have your own insurance, you have your own vendor accounts. I'm just a huge advocate for that, so that, if all else fails and anything happens, you have these things in place and you're able to continue with your business. Okay. So, all of that to say, even if you use one of those companies, I still would prefer to have my MSO and my MSA set up with my own attorney, even if that's something that they provide, because if everything crumbles with that company, or let's say you decide to walk away, let's say you decide like, I don't want to pay this fee, or I don't want to, I want to walk away and just run my business on my own. You're going to have to go do it anyway. Okay. So that's my recommendation. Number 7, we're getting there. Okay, so you will need to build a team. We're not doing this just to create a job for ourselves. We're not doing this just to have a business. We work it. We do all the work in it. We burn ourselves out. Now we're right back at where we started with what we're doing as nurses now, right? We're not doing that. That's not what we're here for. We're here for the long game. So we're here for the freedom. Freedom sounds so beautiful. And freedom means something different to all of us, by the way. So I'll tell y'all, side note, what does freedom mean to me? Honestly, freedom means to me that even though I work in my business, that if I need to walk away, if I traveled to Puerto Rico and I was like, you know what, I'm going to extend my stay by a few days, I could do that and my business could still keep running without me. That is freedom to me. Freedom is that I can be wherever I'm at and I'm still making money. My business can still keep going. And freedom of time. Like I don't have a certain time to be at a certain place. So we know I love my business. I enjoy working in my business, right? But I'm also perfectly fine with building a team, building a very capable team who can continue to run that business without me. And that is my ultimate goal. And that is what I really try to instill in nurses. We're not just creating a job for ourselves. Like we could, if we just wanted to create a job, we could, and your earning potential is still going to be just as limited as if you never started a business. If you're only in it to create a job for yourself, you're going to hit the exact same brick wall that you hit working for an institution, okay, or working for someone else. So you have to have the mindset that you're building. You're going to need to build a team, okay? You're going to need to understand delegation. You need to be prepared to delegate to your team in accordance with their scope. So you need to understand, and let's just say, I feel like a delegation could be a whole separate webinar. Delegation is not that easy as we think it is, and it's very difficult at first if you're not used to doing it, and it really is difficult as a entrepreneur, especially a new entrepreneur. Okay, but delegation is important. You need to understand it. You need to get comfortable with it. You need to be assertive with it, and you need to be aware of who you can legally and what can legally be delegated. And I know y'all remember all those questions on NCLEX. Well, it continues here. Okay, you have to know what you need to prioritize and what you need to delegate. Okay, in business, and I can tell you now, the things that require a lot of focus and sitting and organization are the things I have to delegate. So I really like to do my hands-on care. I just like to show up and do that. Some of the background stuff, I am really enjoying being able to delegate those things. Okay. So be ready to build a team, and be ready to build an aligned team, not just any team, but the best team, the team that understands your mission, your vision. Everyone is not going to be aligned with that. You know, you may hire someone and then realize they're only in it to, you know, possibly start their own business or get that experience. That's okay, because we all have to start as employees, okay? But are they aligned with the mission and the vision while they're there, okay? I feel that I couldn't have been the person I am as an entrepreneur or as a business owner if I wasn't a good employee to start. Whatever company I worked for, I was sure I didn't even work there unless I was in alignment with their mission and their vision, and in alignment with they also had to align with my integrity. Okay. So obviously, you know, I'm not going to want to work for a company that's shady or that's not treating their patients correctly. So it had to go both ways. So same with building your team, it needs to align on both sides. And yes, even if they may one day have aspirations for a business ownership, it does start with being able to be not just a leader, but also understanding, you know, again, delegation, and being okay with being, I won't call it being a follower, but being okay with being in a position of learning and working with someone. Because you have to start there. Okay. You need to start there. And it sets you up to be a better entrepreneur. So I was always a great employee. I wasn't the only problem was, what I said, that hitting that brick wall, not being able to really go any further forward, or hitting the ceiling and not being able to go up any further. Okay. But as far as being that employee, doing my job, carrying out the company mission and vision, I was in it and I was all for it. And that is what I expect from my team and what I want to see and what I want when I'm looking at building my team. Okay. And then also you should understand contractor versus employee. So this is where I say seek legal advice. So the IRS, you know, a lot of people, when they jump into this, they're like, I'm just going to hire contractors. Well, you need to be sure that if you're hiring someone as a contractor, that you are meeting the IRS definition and that they are functioning in that role, because there's so many fines and legalities, you know, that you could run into if not. And if they meet the employee or contractor role, is going to be where, again, now you're growing. So do you have that attorney I said you should have? Do you have that tax professional I said you could have? Because now it's time to grow your team and you need to be sure that you're doing that correctly, right? So now you need to go back and work with them on this. It's great to ask those questions in the Facebook group, but look, y'all, you need to have that team, okay? It's great to have that interaction and kind of understand what other nurses do, but have your team in place. Okay. Truth number 8. You will need a marketing strategy. So they won't just come because you built it. And a strategy is not just you did a grand opening or you posted a time or two on social media. A strategy is, again, planting seeds every single day, a strategy for building relationships, getting your business in front of new people at all times. People, again, your family loves you, but they're not your target market. Your friends, as much as they may love IV drips and be lined up at first, but eventually that's not going to sustain your business. So how else are you going to grow? How else are you going to get in front of people? What is your marketing strategy? It needs to be not just social media, not just on social media or not just off social media, possibly a combination of the two, depending on your target client. Part of your marketing strategy is truly knowing who is your target client. Who do you intend to work with? Who do you want to help? Who do you want to impact? And depending on that, the age group and a few other demographics, your better time on social media may be spent on Facebook, or it may be better spent on Instagram, or it may be better spent on TikTok. So you have to know and understand who you really are looking to work with. And I know y'all have heard this before, but it can't just be everybody, because even if we think just any and everybody wants an IV drip, it's not true. They don't. Not just any and everybody. Not to mention, most of the time, it's not necessary. Most people, I still find a lot of people, depending on your city, they don't even have a clue what the heck IV therapy is. So one of the things that you have to be willing to do is, again, education, being out in the community, focusing on service first. So how can you make this something that people do? How can you make this a household name thing? How can you make your business name a household name in your community? So both on social media and off social media, but again, build those relationships and look to serve first. Okay. So being at community events, I'm hosting a webinar next week for my business. It's a new service that I'm offering, and we're hosting a webinar. It's free, but it's educational, relating to hormone therapy, because I want to provide the education, because I know that so many people suffer needlessly and unnecessarily because of that imbalance. Well, we also know that so many people suffer needlessly and unnecessarily because of nutrient and mineral and vitamin deficiencies. So we can't just lead with, come get a drip. We need to get them to understanding what this is, why it's beneficial, and why it really is taking off and taking over. And you need to be a part of this. Okay. So having that strategy is so important. And that message has to be on repeat. Again, you don't do anything one time. That message, what you choose to be your message and your vision, your mission, it has to be on repeat. You have to keep saying it every single day, all the time. And it could get a little intimidating. You're like, well, people are probably sick of this. Well, who cares for the people who have heard it before? You're trying to get it to new people. Great for the people. I won't say great for the people who have heard it, but great, you've heard it. Did you execute? Did you come get a drip? But what about the people who haven't heard it? So consistency, persistence, and again, repeating that message, but knowing who you need to target it to is all going to be important. Okay, so what do y'all think? What do y'all think of these truths so far? Let me know in the chat. Let's see. Pause for a second. I see a question. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to come back to that one. All right, I do see some questions. Cool, awesome. Y'all keep dropping them. Awesome. Now, y'all still with me, right? Because we're about to get into the last couple of truths. Y'all are still awake. Stay with me now. Stay with me. I know that's a lot. Uh-oh. Hold on, y'all. Let me fix my screen. There we go. Okay. So truth number 9, this is a hard pill to swallow, because even when I started in 2020, the word on the street was you form your LLC, you may or may not even have an attorney or a tax professional. You just set you up some accounts, order some supplies, if you're a nurse or an RN, I should say, you have your collab or your supervising physician. They give you some standing orders and you just take off. Here we are. We have our IV therapy business. You take off, you do great, hopefully, right? That was the way it was. But states have taken notice, and of course, there's always going to be some bad players. So there's just been things, and it's just a lot of nurses really, in a good way, had questions. So they were reaching out to their boards. They were trying to understand and be sure they're setting their business up correctly. So in turn, really, there was not a bad intent there, but they took more notice, like, whoa, this is taking off. This is spreading like a wildfire. There's all these drip lounges and they're popping up everywhere, and they're just ordering off a menu, and they're just giving them drips, and like there's no medical assessment, there's no proper documentation, there's no provider-patient relationship, there's nothing happening here. It's just they're popping in, getting these drips. So they started taking notice. Excuse me. And a lot of states are now, it's not that they're making new laws, but they're reinforcing or they're restating like, hey, this is our position on this, or this is our position on that. And let's just be honest and also say that nurses, we're stepping more into entrepreneurship. Nurse entrepreneurship has exploded. The laws weren't there, but also that's not really what we were intended to be. We were not trained. We intentionally, I say, it was never an intent for nurses to be entrepreneurs or nursepreneurs, right? So they're taking notice and they're like, wait a minute. So regulation, just expect it. But again, if you're setting up the proper foundation, you're working with the tax professional, you're working with the attorney, you're working within your scope. If you're doing all the things that I have mentioned, you don't have to be afraid of that. I know some people are a little afraid because sometimes the regulation might mean, for example, that in one state, you can't mix the bags anymore. So look, as problems are created to be solved, honestly. So if that were to be the case, yeah, that could mean that the cost of the service is going to go up because now you have to seek out the solution of having a pre-mixed bag. But that's regulation, red tape, any of that still does not make this impossible, okay? Like it's still going to be possible. It's just a matter of, yes, we have to toe the line and we have to work within those regulations, and staying informed is important, so follow the industry news. Again, have the network, have the relationships, attend events and conferences. That's been my favorite thing of being an entrepreneur. Like it could be a random Wednesday and I'm at a conference just getting all the knowledge. And I'm like, this is amazing. This was never something I could do when I had my full-time corporate job. So I make it my business to stay as informed as possible because, again, this is a long game. This is what I plan to do for at least the next 10 years. So stay informed, attend conferences, again, having that network, having, lunch with other nurses that are local or other nurses, that are doing what you do, having those meetings. All of those things are so important. Protect your license. So do the procedure or offer the service in accordance with what is your scope and what is outlined as the way it should be done. So if your doctor needs to review a certain amount of charts, then be sure that's happening. If your doctor needs to meet with you once a month, be sure that's happening and that you're documenting that. But work within the parameters, work within the regulations that and that you're able to be advised on. Work with an attorney. If the stuff hits the fan and you have an attorney that has been advising you, it's going to be way better than if you were just out here winging it, okay? So I can't drill that home enough that, back even when I started, we know, and myself included, okay, because I told y'all I'm transparent, like an attorney was like kind of on the back burner. I'm telling y'all now, like, be sure that the attorney is there on the front end of things, okay? I can't say and stress that enough, all right? And keep records. So it's just like anything, you need to keep records of your training. So starting an IV therapy business, you should have training, specialized, you should have a class. And hopefully a class that issues a certificate to document that you had that training, not because an IV is not within, it's within our scope as nurses, but this is still a specialized service. we were not in the hospital mixing vitamins and minerals into bags. We were not doing that. So it is important that you have a training specific to offering this. It's no different than if you want to add on Botox, if you want to add on fillers, if you want to go the route of, I was going to say that earlier, you may go more the med spa route, or you may be like me and go more the wellness and recovery route. But no matter which route you go, it is important to be sure that you are proceeding that way. Okay. So when you're documenting your trainings for each service that you offer, keep records, keep logs. And of course, as you grow and add on your staff, same thing, document your training for your staff as well, okay? Like no one would walk out here and offer Botox, fillers, whatever, any sort of other aesthetic services without having training. And that doesn't mean, like, when you take these trainings, y'all, we know that these trainings are not accredited certifications, but it is important to seek out a credible training from a credible mentor and document that you took that training and keep that documentation, even for the sake of your insurance coverage. So yes, you should do that, and you should seek out the appropriate training. And I know so many people, I understand that they'll start an IV therapy business and they'll do that. They'll go through the process, like it's IV therapy, it's in our scope. But again, I took training. I think it's very important that you document that you have taken an actual training specific to offering IV therapy in your clinic and or, mobile practice. Okay. That keep those records. I feel like that protects your license, and then it still builds relationships that gives you that foundation for staying informed. Okay. Because you come through my class and you're in my rim now. So my goal is to continue to serve you and keep you informed. Okay. And we're ready for truth number 10. Don't we hate competition? It can feel intimidating. Okay. It's one of those other things that can make us feel afraid. It can make us feel like maybe this isn't the thing for me. Maybe I shouldn't proceed. Like, am I good enough? Is my clinic good enough? Is what I offer good enough? Am I ready to do this? Am I even good enough to be an entrepreneur? Like, can y'all tell that I've been there and done this and been through that? Definitely. Competition can feel very intimidating. When I first started, there was really no one in especially the area I was looking at, really offering IV therapy. Most everything was in Tampa. So where I live is a bit outside of Tampa. So I kind of had that jump on. Now there's so many. It truly does not matter. It doesn't affect my business in any way, because I've already from day one differentiated my business to be more specific to surgery and cosmetic surgery. And my business is also very specific to recovery. So that could be athletic recovery, that could be life recovery, hangover recovery, but that's my mission. My mission is recovery, and surgery being the top, right? So that differentiate yourself, nail your niche. Don't be afraid to niche down. Don't be afraid to have a very specific target market, whether it's athletes, that's very popular in IV therapy, but there's so many other options out there. It could also be, again, surgery, post-op clients. It could be bariatric clients. It could be something, maybe you're working more with specific, like autoimmune illnesses or diseases. They love to seek out wellness therapies. So nail your niche and what you enjoy. Okay. It could be cardiac. That's not something that is even existing right now in this realm. And there's so many IV therapies out there that have benefits to support a strong cardiovascular system or recovery from cardiovascular issues. Okay. So many out there. Define your client experience. Make it unique. Make it memorable. Make them remember you and your brand. Okay. That is going to, and that's the thing. Competition is perfectly okay. It's not honestly a big deal. Okay. Because if you have a niche and you make what you offer unique and memorable, will there be the clients that don't care about an experience and they just hop around to the cheapest? Yes, but that's not who I'm looking for anyway. So I'm okay with letting them go about their way. And don't get distracted. It's easy to, when you see this clinic popping up and that clinic popping up and like, what are they offering? Been there, done that. Don't get distracted with business. in entrepreneurship, you really have to put on the blinders and you really have to focus in on what your clients need from you. What does your business need from you? Okay. So do not get distracted. Focus on building and prioritize serving your clients. Prioritize, if you don't have the clients yet, prioritize having everything in place to give them the absolute best that you have to offer. Okay. So competition is no big deal at all. And it's definitely not too late to join this IV therapy world. So don't feel like that either. So I help nurses start IV therapy business, concierge nursing businesses, post-op recovery businesses. That's what I do. And again, whether you take my class or not, I'm looking to help hundreds more nurses this year. And that is what I enjoy. So as you see up there, my business is Adaptive Wellness and Recovery. That's here in Tampa. And I have a light bulb over my head in this picture because I love awakening other nurses to what is possible. So I always wanted to have my business and I didn't really know what that would look like, feel like. I really, truly did not think it was possible or feasible for me. So, but it is. And I still remember the day that I was driving down the road and literally the light bulb came on and I was just so energized and so excited and so ready like to make this happen because I realized like this really is feasible and really is possible. And I myself was blessed with other nurses who had already started ahead of me, who were there to tell me it is definitely possible. It is definitely feasible. And again, that is why I enjoy and love giving back and doing what I do as far as courses, events, webinars, some free, some paid. Okay. And I also understand why a lot of us, why we are seeking out entrepreneurship. I understand why we're looking at other options. I've mentioned it before. We know freedom, we know fulfillment, we know flexibility, we know these things, but it still is so much deeper than that because again, our potential for earnings, our potential for legacy, our potential for building an asset is limitless as an entrepreneur. We're always going to be limited and reach a ceiling as an employed nurse. It's just is what it is. We could have a great career and retire. And if that's okay for you. But me, those of us who are here, we know that that's not what we want. We want something different. And it is okay to want something different too. I relocated to Tampa in 2016 and I relocated. My whole relocation was based on having a job. It wasn't based on, now, of course, that wouldn't be the case, right? The beauty of being an entrepreneur. But my entire relocation back then was based on finding a job. And I found a job in Tampa. I got to Tampa and within 2 weeks, I was fired from that job. We packed up our entire family. We moved, we had paid deposits. We had gotten an apartment, like everything, or a townhome, fired within 2 weeks. And it felt demeaning. It hurt. Okay, y'all, it hurt deep. So, and even the jobs that I had after that, even the corporate job I was blessed with, that was amazing. My first time ever making 6 figures, I still hit the brick wall. Okay. I still hit the ceiling. So despite everything, now, despite my years of nursing experience, despite my nursing expertise, despite all the value I brought to the table as an employee in aligning with the company's mission and vision, despite all of it, I still felt disrespected and micromanaged. So I totally understand. And the day the light bulb came on was the day that I realized my value and what was possible for me as a nurse. And honestly, number 3, I truly believe in alignment and purpose. And as I said earlier, you have to be willing and able to align your mindset and even if it's terrifying, be okay with working within your purpose and just embracing the frustrations that may come with that. But until you do that, you will be unfulfilled. So if that is being employed, that's okay. But if that is entrepreneurship, then hey, welcome. And students that I've worked with, I have lots of students out there running very successful and rapidly growing not just post-op recovery concierge businesses, but also the postpartum concierge businesses and IV therapy businesses. So I won't bore y'all with this, but that's just a few. If you go to my Instagram, the Concierge Nurse Network, I put lots of reviews. A lot of the times when someone sends me a review or gives me feedback, I take a shot of it and I put it into the highlights. So go to Instagram highlights and you can see plenty of like real reviews from real nurses that I have been super blessed to work with.